No, I have to bang the gavel first. Right. This is
response.
this is the Monday, February 25th, 2013, work session of the River Edge Mayor and Council. Can we all stand for a moment of silent prayer and or reflection? And if our Borough Administrator could lead us in a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and attend any meetings of public bodies at which business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the Act, the Mayor and the Council of the Borough have caused notice of this meeting to be published in December of last year by having the date, time, and place posted in the Borough Hall, sending notices to the Bergen Record and the Ridgewood News, and notifying the municipal clerk. The mission of the governing body here is to provide essential services through the establishment and implementation of public policy, to safeguard the infrastructure, providing honest, courteous, and professional services, thereby establishing a sense of trust and accomplishment with our residents. We do this through research and prudent planning to minimize risks and improving our infrastructure. We are sensitive to the needs of the taxpayer, while realizing that the governing body cannot be all things to all people within the revenue constraints imposed by state mandates, present economic condition, and prevailing attitudes about taxation. We are on the record, both video and audio. We have 3 exits in the council chambers, 2 to the front and 1 to the back. If any member of the public wishes to be heard and appear on our record, they can stand, give us their name and address. If they want to be seen, they can approach the microphone in the front. We have a pretty short agenda this evening. Can I have a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Murphy?
Here.
Councilman Eccleston?
Here.
Councilman Coppola?
Here.
Councilman Rizzo?
Here.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Here.
Councilman Papaleo?
Here.
And Mayor Mascarotola?
Present. Okay, we have one borough administrative topic, which is a resolution A1196. Alan?
Mayor, thank you. If I may, this resolution was provided to the Mayor and Council on or about January 30th. It's a resolution which would oppose change in the workers' compensation law for public safety workers. It is currently, many of the associations out there are opposing this. Your Joint Insurance Fund, the Managers Association, the Government Finance Officers, I believe the League of Municipalities. And the reason being that it would provide workers' compensation coverage for any death or disability, including any post-traumatic stress disorder related to the work of our public safety workers. Now, the problem is that if a retired firefighter, for instance, who was in their 90s, contracted cancer, this could be attributed to the job performance.
Exposure during
job performance, and we would be liable for that. The Mel has estimated that it could double workers' compensation expenses of $400 million per year. Many of these associations are asking the boroughs to pass a resolution opposing this legislation.
Any discussion? If any member of council would like to move a resolution like this on our agenda at a public meeting? Don't hear any support for it, Alan.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
I haven't read it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd like more time.
Yeah, I just need to read.
Was it in the, I know it was in our
bill.
prior, I know it was in our prior correspondence.
Yeah, I just have to read it.
And I know that the league has taken a position opposing it, right? Saying
Yes,
it's
I have the
going to-
league letter here. Mayor's fax advisor went out.
that it will raise insurance rates and, possibly lead to the opening up additional claims that will increase municipal liability for, deaths and and disease and injuries which occur far after an employee has left public service. So,
Can we
You
table
wanna-
it till, I make a motion to table it till we all have a chance to look at it again?
all right, let's put it back on the agenda for another public meeting, the next public meeting, or the next work session. All right, we have a motion. Is there a second to table?
You don't need a motion because it hasn't been moved.
Right, okay. All right, Denise will keep it on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next we have Mr. Costa, Borough Engineer, here to discuss the generator at Fire Department number 2.
Mr. Mayor, good evening, members of the council. I'm not sure why I'm here tonight, but I believe that this particular project was put on hold.
Mayor, if I may,
Yeah.
there's, I guess, 2 reasons. The project was put on hold. We're exploring 2 FEMA applications to fund it. While we do have funding in an ordinance, we'd like to see, what the result is of those FEMA applications. In many cases, if you go ahead and make the repairs or spend the money, and the award has not been made, then you're not eligible for the reimbursement. So we want. In addition, we had an amendment to your contract for the work that you've done on it. And I think I was asking for about $6,500 to cover a present bill and, anything left that might be left on the design or anything. So I think that was another issue that came up that was tabled at the last meeting.
I don't think it's an additional 6,500. I think the total. What's going on?
Well, we had an agreement for $2,800. Excuse me, $5,000. We had an initial agreement of $5,000. We received the invoice for $6,225, and the council tabled it. And, we're not done with the installation or anything else, so.
No,
Who,
if I can. Mayor, may I?
yeah, just wanted to know who made the motion to table, and if all the questions have been answered.
Yes,
I just know.
Ed? Okay. Part of the finance committee.
I just had, these are just small sizes, but the project was ready to go out to bid. The specs are done, the plans are done. The design's done for a pedestal that's going to go adjacent to the firehouse. Removing all the shed that's there now, removing the existing generator, and then placing the sidewalk around it to get it far enough away so you can service it.
But Alan, can you just review, what was the original contract, and then we're over that amount already, you're saying?
The original was $5,000.
And the invoice, we were invoiced for $6,000.
$6,225.
And that's what I was getting, more procedures, why we didn't realize there was going to be another increase, and what was the cause for the increase over the original proposal?
We sent an email, I believe, to Alan in December.
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. Prior to this, and then dealing with obviously the fire department and Tom Smith, head of the OEM, they wanted to push this thing and get it out to bid. We also checked the flood maps because of whether or not there were new flood maps. We went down there, we resurveyed to make sure that elevations were correct, because obviously
The new maps didn't change the flood elevation, though.
they did not.
They did not.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
But that topo was done probably 8 years ago, so I want to make sure that we're in NJVD 88, not that we're setting 29 to 88, and now 29 is lower than 88. And if it floods, we wreck a generator. I don't want to be put in that position.
So this is going to be on a pedestal, right?
Correct.
With a set of stairs?
Correct.
I guess about, what is that, 3 feet off the ground?
I believe it is 3 feet off the ground.
ruleless.
And again, verify the property line, so we didn't go over the property line, and we're going to have enough room to move around it and still have enough clearance to keep it off the side of the building.
What size generator is this, Rob?
What's that?
What size generator do we have down there?
I think the existing is, it's either 40 or 45 kV. The one that we're actually spec'ing out, again, it would have to be approved equal, but it's a Cummins, which is similar to the one at the DPW, the pump station down by Wayne, obviously the one that's in the parking lot here. And for the most part, it's a pretty simple calculation as far as
What's the size of the new one, the proposed one?
size. Don't hold me to this, I think it's 45, if I'm not mistaken.
We have a used 45 if you want to buy one.
What's that?
We have a used 45 if you want to buy one.
Well, this one, the one that we spec'd, actually, we put it in, I believe, as a alternate, but to put in there that it could run on propane in the event that the gas supply was cut off. So it could be a dual.
Propane?
Correct.
I'm just,
Yes.
I'm not...
If, for whatever reason, if the gas supply is shut down, which could happen, this could actually run off of propane. Now, you would need a tank. You'd have to obviously put a tank in or have some sort of an ability to get a propane tank there large enough, but it could run on dual fuel.
So then now, just clarify for me, what are we being requested to act on? Mr. Costas build 6,200 and you were just going to make it 65 and that's going to wrap up the project? Or is there going to be another phase?
We're done. I mean, this is...
There's no installation. I was thinking that there's going to be inspection, there's going to be follow-through with the project, if there's issues that come up. So I was looking for another $5,000 basically on the inspection side, and $1,225 to take care of, the current bill in hand for the design. We're done with the design.
Designs...
Take care of that bill, but then have approximately $5,000.
I would be comfortable paying Mr. Costa what he's invoiced thus far, and hold off on any future fees until we bid the project and actually go into construction. Then Mr. Costa can give us the cost for inspection at that time.
I have one question, Mr. Costa. On the last page of your plan, construction sequence number 15, it says fuel diesel tank and perform generator test. Is it going to run on diesel too?
No, that's going to be a typo.
It can run on any fuel known to man. Propane, gas, diesel.
I'm only asking, I'm just asking.
Yeah, that's a typo. I apologize.
This is built to the 100-year flood?
Probably because I screamed, always do a diesel generator. That might be what the problem is.
But this is not going to be a diesel
And Alan probably
generator.
was screaming in my ear, don't do a diesel generator, but I probably never took it out.
I always wanted natural gas.
The plan doesn't have the size of the generator? This document that you handed out doesn't have the size of the generator anywhere?
It should, but it's in the specifications. If you give me 1 second. kW, 56 kVA.
56 what?
Kilovolt amperes.
KVA?
Yes.
Kilovolt amperes. 45 kW is a lot more user-friendly designation.
Right.
Okay. So Alan, what do you need from us?
According to Councilman Mignon, $1,225 to take care of the amendment for the contract.
right, is there a motion to amend Mr. Costa's contract to include that?
That was my motion. I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, any abstained? All right, very good.
Thank you, Mayor.
Is that it for Mr. Costa?
That's as far as I
I
know.
guess just tell us when you want us to go out to bid.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, what's your estimate, your cost on the platform construction? How much is that going to cost? Is it being bid together, or is it going to be bid?
No, one contract. This is similar how we did Wayne Pump Station. One contractor, we sub out the masonry work, and then we did the electrical portion down there.
What's your estimate on just the masonry part of this?
That one, trying to think what that one came in at. 20, was it 20?
I don't remember. Sorry.
I wish, you know what, years ago I could remember a lot of this stuff off the top of my head. I think the contract down there was it 50,000 or 60,000 total? You know,
If you could just get us the breakdown,
I'll get you, what I'll do is I'll get you the breakdown, I'll email it to everybody tomorrow morning if that's all right. I just,
Fine.
honestly, I can't remember.
Do you, not to put you on the spot, Mr. Costa, but do you have an estimate as to just the cost of the unit itself?
I believe the unit is around 27,000, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And Alan, I'm trying to think, how much money was put into this?
I think we have 50.
I think we had, yeah, I think we do have 50 in this.
Yeah, okay. We have 50.
All
So
right.
I think there is enough money, or very close to get this done.
Okay.
All right?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, the only thing we have on the consent agenda is Resolution 13-112 to go into closed session. Is that right, Denise?
That's after the work session, Mayor. You're going to be acting that resolution.
I know we're gonna go into closed session,
Right.
but can we just adopt the resolution now?
If you'd like.
Yeah, we
Sure.
can do that. So, do I hear a motion for Resolution 13-112 to go into closed session after the public meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. And we have a presentation tonight from the county on 911 dispatching. I'd like to invite and welcome everybody for coming here. If you guys can, if you need to pull up another chair,
I'd like to invite the chief over here.
and we can,
He doesn't
Chief?
want to, he doesn't, he said he's
you want to
not
stay
gonna-
back there? You want to come up here? Want to ask any questions? No?
Just listening.
You're just a detached observer. How are you, Mr. Karinsky?
How do you do, Mayor?
Good.
See you again.
You too.
My name's Ed Trewinski. I'm the Bergen County Administrator. In addition to that, just so you know that I wear a couple hats, former Mayor Fairlawn is currently serving out my 12th year on the council in the borough of Fairlawn. So, in making this presentation, not that I understand all the questions you have, but I understand the perspectives that you may bring to the equation as council members looking out for the concerns of public safety for your residents. I have with me the county police chief and also the director of law and public safety, who is Brian Higgins, and sitting to his immediate right is Captain Mark Lipinski, who actually runs the Public Safety Operations Center in Mawa. And I'm going to turn it over to Chief Higgins. And we'd like to thank Councilwoman Murphy initially for contacting us and inviting us, and the rest of the council for agreeing to have us.
Welcome, welcome. Chief?
Thank you for having us tonight. Appreciate it. I just want to clarify that what we're here to do tonight is just give you some experience with the Public Safety Operations Center, see what we have to offer. But as far as a proposal, we don't have a proposal for the borough of River Edge. We don't know. Until a few minutes ago, I didn't really know your population, and I don't know your call volume. So we couldn't get into the nitty-gritty, but as far as what we have to offer, I think, has anybody here ever seen our Public Safety Operations Center? Okay, so as far as the building goes and the technology in it, I think it's fair, at a minimum, to say it's state-of-the-art technology. The communication center runs off of a digital trunked radio system, which Captain Lipinski could explain much better than I. But the way the trunked radio system works is it's a better use of frequencies. Bergen County had somewhere in the neighborhood of 800 frequencies we're using, and if you can imagine, you only need that frequency when you're pressing the button and broadcasting a message and back and forth. If you think about how many times that's done a day over all of these multiple frequencies, it's not a very efficient system in our current technology. So what a digital trunked radio system does is reduce that bank of frequencies down and uses the frequencies that are available at the time only when you need them. So instead of having this frequency that you're paying for that you're using just sitting there dead when you're not broadcasting a message or voice, it actually uses the available frequencies more so that they're digitized and they're always available. So in other words, I don't need to have a radio with multiple frequencies on it. I have them all connected into this trunk. Am I saying that pretty close to right?
Sounds good, sir.
I'm still learning this technology stuff. So what this trunk radio does is make much more efficient use of our technology, and of course much more cost effective. The upside, besides not using as many frequencies, is the technology that we're using to broadcast through digital trunked radio over the airwaves, if you will, through this transmission, is a much clearer message and actually more secure. Our trunked radio system is completely encrypted. Right now you'll hear some of the complaints, well, I can't listen to the county police anymore because our radio is completely encrypted. And Mark will tell you when we can and cannot use those encryptions. The benefit of not only having a clear sound, if you've ever heard our radio transmissions, they're incredible. They're crystal clear. There's no garbling. The dead spots, some people like to say there are no dead spots in trunked radio system. There still are in digital trunked radio spots system. Captain Lipinski has a little package he made for everybody we'd like to give you. You'll see where we broadcast from. We call them shelters, but basically where your repeaters would be in a traditional system. We don't need as many because of the capacity of the digital trunk system and the power by which it transmits. So what we have as far as the trunk radio system is a much more robust one and actually a much more dependable system. What we can do as far as the dispatch center is literally just economies of scales. When you have multiple agencies, as you know, the makeup of Bergen County, we're made up of 70 very small municipalities on a national scale. Even though what we would consider a large police department in Bergen County, just over 100, in the rest of the country is quite often considered small. The move across the country is consolidation, as you know. Even in North Carolina, some of the smaller agencies are 1,100 and 1,700 staff. We can use dispatchers in a trunked radio, in a talk group that we can share on a routine basis, on a regular basis, and transmitting messages and receiving messages when the other town's not using them. The benefit of having a large-scale operation is when we do get very busy, and you have 2 municipalities that are operating a large operation, or 3, and it becomes a big one, let's say a multi-alarm fire or a bank robbery like we had in Fairlawn today. We have these other dispatchers that are working on a bare minimum. Captain Lipinski will tell you, how many do we have operating in
The center at one time is at least 10 to 12 dispatchers at one time.
They're not all busy all the time. So when a call comes in or we need multiple dispatchers, we don't have the overflow issues that many municipalities have when they're operating right out of their municipality. So that's what we have to offer. You know, when you look at the rest of the country, New York City dispatches from a small number of dispatch centers for fire, EMS, and police throughout all 5 boroughs. When you go to Arizona, LA, Florida, it's a statewide operation or a county-wide operation. to think that we can't transmit a button, and there, if you know digital operations, there's no delay whether I dispatch my radio from Mawa or from Hackensack. The transmission gets there in the same amount of time. So there is no delay in time. What we've also heard is we don't know your municipalities and we don't know your streets. I can tell you of all the municipalities that we've conducted dispatch for, or we currently provide full dispatch, we've hired or at least offered jobs to all their employees. Interesting enough, all of the employees that come over from municipalities now become county police employees or county employees. They know your streets just as well as when they're working here in your municipality. Mark will show you that we also have technology today through ThinkMap, through our GIS, and he'll explain GIS, and through our ActiView system and automatic vehicle locator. The goal eventually is to get into silent dispatch. And the way we're doing it now at the county police is, as an incident type comes in, bomb call. So we have a bomb call for a sweep of a suspicious package at, let's say, a religious institution. Once that call type is put into the computer, the call is then sent silently to the car that would need it, the bomb squad and the canine. So that the time it takes to normally enter the call, have the dispatcher get all the information and press the button to call the police car, that's been reduced because the call has been sent via computer to the car and then followed up by a radio transmission. So when a municipality comes on board and comes on board completely, what's delaying the process, quite frankly, is the difficulty in overcoming leaving your municipality and giving up the control to anybody, whether it's a county or anyone. So what happens quite often is we do this piecemeal. Somebody comes over by us just a little bit, they come over just for 911, and there's a delay because we're not coming over in a whole package. If a municipality who will come to us where they give us 911 dispatch, police, fire, EMS, they'll tell you, and I think we actually have some testimony from our customers that they're very pleased with the system and the response times are actually decreasing. So, Mark, you want to hand out your package?
What I'm giving out here, I've tried the business plan, just so you all know. My name is Mark Lipinski. I'm a captain with Bergen County Police Department. A little bit about my background: I'm a former Marine. I have 17 years volunteer EMS experience. I have 12 years on the council in the borough of Wallington, council president for 4 of those years, municipal police officer for 3 years, county police officer for about 23 years. So I look at this from all different aspects. Communications, there's a lot involved with communication.
Thank you.
Actually, I have,
You have enough?
I think I'm going to be one short.
I'll give mine to the mayor.
We have to take one to the chief.
Mark, take mine. I don't know.
Normally this process takes about 2 hours. I know your time is valuable, so I'm going to cut it down. Normally what a lot of towns do is they come up to the GSOC, the Public Safety Operations Center, they put their committees together, they come up, and they're looking for information. That's what you're doing right now. I'm going to give you a lot of information. The business plan that you have in front of you is full of a lot of information. When we leave here, you may have more questions than you do at this point, but we're planting the seed, we're planting the seed, starting the cycle. Communications, 911, dispatch, radio infrastructure, it all comes together. What we're trying to achieve here is to improve public safety with communications. Some people, when we come to their municipality, they look at it, whether it be an administrator, a mayor, we're here to save money. Okay, that's the bonus. We're going to save money, but we're also going to improve public safety. And that's the benefit of what we're doing. One thing I recommend is putting people together, your committees, your police chiefs, your firefighters, your EMS, bringing everybody to the table. Because this is their PSOC, their operations center, their system.
they're worried about their safety. So when they come to the table, everybody gets educated, we all get good information, and we move forward. And that's the best way to go down this road of figuring out what we're going to do with communications in the future. Once again, 911, dispatch, radio infrastructure. Okay, I'm going to go through this flyer I have for you. Once again, I'm going to give you the condensed version. There's a lot of information. Okay, there's a lot of what we do here. If you actually go to these police departments, talk to your chief, see what they actually do, see what the firefighters do, there's a lot going on. In the old days, with a radio and a phone, there's so much more today involved with communications. Okay, right off the bat, the mission statement. That's the creed. That's what we live by. Okay, I'm not going to read this up to you because I know, like once I said, your time is valuable. Our mission statement pretty much speaks for itself. A little bit about the history of Bergen County within the document. If you have a pen, I'm going to give you my card is attached to every business card. I'm going to give you my cell number. It's 973-725. Neil, don't copy this down. 6042. And you could just, whatever you need as far as communications, questions, feel free to give me a call. Okay, once we get to page 3, this is about the PSOC. What the county is trying to achieve here: consolidation, shared services, improve public safety. Chief made a statement, 800 frequencies in Bergen County. And to the point where we can't even talk with each other no more. Town A can't talk to the next town. Okay, there's just so many frequencies out there, and with this consolidation, shared services, we're improving that. A little bit about technology. Technology, we rely on it. It's helping us save seconds and save lives. It's getting pretty hard for certain municipalities to keep up with the pace because of cost, because of resources. We have the technology, we're using it to our advantage to improving public safety. The CAD system is listed there. Cody CAD is what we utilize. Once again, this is normally 2 hours. I'm going to cut this down. ThinkMap. The mapping software we use, if you ever come up by us, and I recommend you all, take a trip up, we'll give you the tour. The map, everything revolves around our map. AVL, we're able to actually see where our cars are. When somebody calls, we're able to see where that caller is. We take the closest car, put them together. A police officer on the street, we're going to be tracking him on his portable radio. So when that officer presses that red button, how great is it to know that his backup may be a block away, even if it's not his officer, his backup may be a mile away on the other side of town, but one of the surrounding communities may have a closer officer. And that's what we're talking about, using technology to save these seconds and save lives. The AVL, once again, we track our vehicles, Lodi track their vehicles, ambulances are being tracked. In the future, I sit on a commission with the state, on the advisory commission with Neil, and I'm also a commissioner at the statewide Public Safety Communications Commission. And we're moving across the state with broadband. So in the future, with technology, you're going to see tracking of all these vehicles, the police vehicles, the fire department vehicles, and that's where we're going with public safety. InfoCop, software we use in the cars to let us decipher what the state computers are saying, NCIC, CGIS, when we do lookups. It gives us that information so we can actually, in real time, see what this vehicle we stopped, registration, and all that information comes right to the card. And we also use it as messaging, from talking car to car or from car to the comm center. NCIC Green, that's the software that we use on the system to break up all the different lookups and stuff. The Avaya is our phone switch. Recording solution, we use a nice recording solution. Everything coming into the center is recorded at least twice.
If I could interrupt Mark for a minute. One of the questions I get, because I deal with many of the mayor and councils, is tell us what we can do for you. And I think it's a fair question, but I think my answer most of the time is, what would you like us to do? My short answer is, we can do anything you need. We can do your 911, receiving of 911 calls. We can dispatch your police, fire, EMS, but we can also handle your phones. There's one municipality, more than one, but one example that I know of where we handle their 911, their police, fire, EMS. We also monitor the camera at the police headquarters, so after hours, no one's in the building. If you show up at the building and you call, you'll get somebody a MAWA who looks at you in the camera. if it's an emergency like a domestic violence, we can buzz you into the foyer and you're locked in there. We also answer the calls. So if your officers are busy out, you have 3 or 4 detectives, they're out working, you can, as part of your package, have our dispatchers answer. We have administrative calls that are answered. They can actually answer as if somebody's in the building all the time. So we can handle just your 911 calls and transfer it back to you and be your PSAP, but we can also dispatch, we can also answer your phones, and we can look at your cameras for you.
I think that's the chief way of saying to move this along. There's a lot of information here with the technology. You see it listed there, the radio, the headset, Mutual Link. Let's throw some other stuff at you. These are the towns we support, their population, and what services we provide to them. We actually have our organizational chart within this context. A hiring training. Training is crucial. That's one of our advantages. Over 700 hours of training before you put somebody in that chair. The trunk radio system that the chief mentioned is on there. A little bit about trunking. Quality assurance. That's something that I'm very proud of. And I'm going to just stop here and talk about this for a second. QA, we're providing a service. We actually take the calls that we receive. We grade the calls. It's a QA process, different types of calls, admin, 911. Randomly, we select calls to make sure we're providing the best service to our customers.
The two-edged side to that is you don't know what complaints you have about your dispatchers for the most part. Unless it's a serious complaint, if somebody drops a call, doesn't answer the call properly, dispatches to the wrong address, it's probably, hey, Joe screwed up, don't do that again. That does not occur. We have a quality assurance program where you're going to hear, well, the county had 40 complaints last year. Yes, that's because we document every single complaint and we investigate every single complaint, and the findings are kept digitally for what was said on the phone, what was dispatched, what the complaint was, and what the finding is. So, yes, our numbers indicate that we have complaints, but that's because not one complaint is ever just a phone call that we pass off. It's not a, hey, don't do that again. We document every single complaint. So if you've ever heard of an example of a dispatcher dropping a call, dispatching to the wrong municipality or the wrong address, that complaint exists. It probably was not really what happened, but I can tell you we've documented every one. So you let us know the complaint, the date, and we'll find it for you.
Okay, thanks, Chief. The frequently asked questions is on the next page. We'll answer some of your questions that you may have. Calls for service, these are the number of calls that we handled last year. And some cost savings for the municipalities. This is the towns that we support that came on to full dispatch, what we were able to save them when they did come on. My contact information, and then this is a letter from Leonia, Chief, and Lieutenant Rowe, referencing the service that they provided. Once again, I do a lot at you. We could have been up here for 2 hours. One thing I ask is, Mayor, Council, if you're proactive, put a group together, come up to the PSOC. I'll meet you up there anytime. I'll show you what you have. I'll fill you in on how we do business up there. Get some of the individuals together, public safety individuals, and I'm sure that we'll be able to help them and give them some good information as we move forward.
We already have a shared services committee that is already appointed in January of each year, so that we can look at shared services with other municipalities or other entities. So I'd like our shared services committee to come and tour the facility and check it out.
That would be great. There's a good point you brought up about as far as the communities around you. There are several communities around you that are now looking into the PSOC and are doing the same thing that you're doing. So I think that would be great. And I just recommend having police, fire, and EMS on those committees so they can come up and have their input, because they have a lot of concerns.
Okay. Thanks. Anything else? Any questions? Tom?
Well, I was going to just ask a few questions. I've been asking around, and if these are long answers, we can leave them to share services if you can. So I had heard from different people. One had said that, and I thought I saw this in the paper, that it was free of charge, but now I see that there is a charge. And I also see Lodi went from $200,000 to $225 to $250 to $275 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So, I guess a concern that I would have is, we, of course, use the Bergen County Utility Authority, and we keep seeing our costs go up, 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 up. So what exactly, how do you structure your fees, and who authorizes you to raise the fees? Because once we go to you, to come back would be difficult, if not impossible. So we make this sort of commitment, then, we can't unmake it. So I'm wondering how the costs are structured.
We can answer the question as how the costs are structured, but you're not incorrect about the cost and what you saw. We are about to announce that we are going on a phased-in timeframe that'll start at the fourth quarter of this year, where the municipalities that have been with us, where their 911 dispatch, we will no longer charge them, or we've agreed to charge them. We won't charge them anything. And then we will be phasing in over the first half of 2014 and the 2015, the entire year, depending on where we get the geographic areas that come together, the talk groups, no cost for the 911 dispatch. Simultaneously, we are working now with the fire community and the EMS community at the Mahwah Public Training Facility to develop countywide protocols for fire and EMS, so we can offer your EMS and fire dispatch at no cost also. That will come second half of 2013 through, again, second half of 2014 through 2015 at no cost. And then the next to last phase will be dispatch for what we characterize as small communities, and that's all but 9 communities. It's any community with a population less than 25,000, which certainly with you folks at about 11,000 is in that group. And that will start in 2015 through 2016, where if you're not already with us, we will offer dispatch at no cost to your community if you desire to take advantage of that. And the thinking of the county executive is that your taxpayers, as the taxpayers of the other 70 municipalities, have already paid for this dispatch center. You've paid for it through your taxes, and we can make it available on a no-cost basis. We can do it because of the aggregation of the talk groups far more efficiently than the 70 municipalities can. We're also looking at addressing the concern, and we're in the midst of it right now, of the oft-heard concern of, I'm in North Arlington or I'm in Lyndhurst, how can you possibly dispatch from Mahwah into my community? Well, 2 answers. The first answer is, which I've been known to give, is the United States of America flies drones into Afghanistan and Iraq from CENTCOM in Florida and Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska. We can dispatch. All you got to do is come up to the center and see it, and you'll see that we dispatch. But more importantly, to address the fears of the residents of this county, and also to have not a secondary but a tertiary backup for the system, we are looking at and we have the facility right now, we're just looking at how we're going to phase it in. And Paramus, where the county police will be located, a secondary backup system that will be designed to accommodate municipalities such as yours in the long term, because it will be centrally located within the county. And then we're looking at a tertiary system in South Bergen, probably in the East Rutherford area, that will be designed to accommodate the South Bergen communities, to address the concerns which people have, and I understand that people have it, I hear it in my own town, of how can you possibly dispatch out of Mahwah up here? Why we're doing it is because the thing we've learned in the last couple emergencies is it's not enough to have a primary emergency operations center within this county located in Mahwah. We've had some issues countywide, and we believe that having a secondary and tertiary backup system is the way to go. And it seems, the governor has said and other people have said, the 100-year storm is happening every other year, and the emergencies that we're facing. So that's where we're headed. Short term, if you wanted to come with us, we would do it on a fee basis, and I will let Captain Lipinski explain the fee. But it usually takes a municipality, quite frankly, by the time you work through your processes, about a year, 15 months to figure out whether you want to do it or not. And you would be in line then if we had the talk group, and we are talking to 2 adjacent municipalities where it would seem to make sense for that talk group to be formed, that you would probably come in if you elected to start with the 911 on a no-cost basis.
Before we go to Brian, I believe it is, Ed, the question that I really would like to know is, who if say we did, I'm not saying that I would vote for that, but I'm exploring the idea. Say we did go with something like this, and 911, of course, you're saying is free, but the other components are not. Who controls how the costs go up?
Ultimately, the freeholders.
So it's the freeholders who...
Ultimately, the freeholders. It's the combination of the executive branch and the freeholder branch. The executive branch proposes, which is the county executive, on recommendation of someone like myself, a county administrator, which comes from the Department of Law and Public Safety, and then it goes to the freeholders. And the freeholders have the final say.
If I can just add one.
Sure.
Our goal is to make this, not to make it, that this be revenue neutral. The County of Bergen should not make any profit on the backs of the River Edge municipality. What we've taken 2 years to, I think they get it now, the freeholders to agree to is, they wanted us to come up with a cost of running the dispatch center and split it up with the municipalities based on the aggregate of their population. So what Lodi, Leonia, and so forth. But that's what it costs to run the place, without accepting the fact that the county owns a big part of that. We dispatch the county police, the sheriff's department, the prosecutor's office, our animal shelter, our road department, Meals on Wheels, and the county wasn't accepting the fact that they had to buy into the part of that cost. That's where I think the freeholder...
They are there now.
It changes. Today's Monday. I don't know what tomorrow is. But I think they're there now, that the county has to share the cost. It should never be more than, not even a penny more than what it actually costs. So what I would tell you is, as long as it remains truly revenue neutral, the cost would be driven by collective bargaining agreements, pension costs, and the cost of the infrastructure. You should never have to answer to anybody, even the freeholders, about what your added cost should be. That's my goal.
Thank you for those answers. Could I just ask you a few more questions, just general questions? The system that you guys would be operating on may or may not work with our current equipment, which means we'd have to buy new equipment to be working on your system. And it's my understanding that some of the equipment, for instance, a new walkie-talkie, a device that would be working in vehicles, could be upwards of $5,000. Can you speak to that at all?
I can speak to that. Yes, sir. The cost that you're referring to depends on how we do business. And I hate to use that term, it depends, but if we do business where you come onto the system and you have your current radio infrastructure, there's ways that we can tie into your current radio infrastructure. So there's your current radios that you're using today. They will work today. We tie them into our system, patch them together, and as we move forward, you purchase new radios. There's also certain things we're trying to do now, get money from forfeited funds to help out with the towns. Those are different initiatives that we're trying to offer to the communities we serve. That's just the radio infrastructure. There's a lot of other equipment that you're going to save money on that you're probably paying maintenance fees, replacement fees that are in the future, you no longer need because we have them and the county is moving forward with those fees. So that's a lot of savings you will have. 911 equipment, your radio infrastructure, we have the back end. All you have to worry about is the subscribers. You no longer need a CAD system. So there's a lot of savings when it comes to that equipment that you're talking about. Your recording system, we have a recording system. So there's a lot of savings there as far as when you're talking to when it comes down to cost.
But there may be a cost to us to, if you can't patch the system in radios.
It depends on how we do business.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables, a lot of questions here. There may be a cost, but I can tell you what right now, any savings that you have will outweigh what it's going to cost you to come on board.
That's good to know. Just one last question, and I'll leave it to the Shared Services Committee. The digital system, as our fire department, when they go into a building, they're wearing a mask, and there was a concern that the digital system, in its attempt to read or understand firefighters in the mask, garbles it beyond the ability for the system to process it, and therefore it's a failure of communications. Can you address that at all?
Yes, you're right. You are 100% correct. That is so true, and we have learned over the years, Philadelphia, a lot of the other states, a lot of the other counties, you do not go into a fire with a digital radio on a repeater. We learned it in Hackensack. You go in there with a simplex, you talk analog to your fire ground channels, and that's what you utilize. So you're 100% right about that. That's the way we do business.
So you would maintain the analog for the fire department?
You would maintain that analog. The fire ground is run at the scene.
Okay.
We run paging operations, but the fire ground is run at the scene by the chief and the individuals at that scene.
That's pretty much standard protocol of most fire departments, the ones that we've been dealing with, that you have the fire scene monitoring. So yes, we don't ever want to sell you, we don't want a fireman to die because I sold you a system.
Okay. I appreciate it. I'm going to leave the rest to the shared services. I just wanted to ask these questions.
Kathleen?
Have you ever lost communication in the past, say, 8 months? Have you ever been down for any period of time?
No.
You have not?
No. And, go ahead.
No, that's something that I was concerned about, if you, at any point that you have, your system had been shut down for an hour or two.
No.
And you lost communication.
Their system, now, that's the huge terminology to say shut down. Trunk radio system, there's like a 9 levels of redundancy. Okay, so if the trunking does shut down, the trunking is down, but you still go to lower levels, what's called fail-safe. The system is the way it works today. Cars can talk to cars, they can talk on that site trunking, it's called. So you're working around your site, you still have communications. There are, Lodi, we actually one day, we did go down, for that term being down. The end user didn't realize until we told them you were in site trunking that there was anything wrong while we were making an adjustment. But there's no threat to public safety. The system worked as designed.
What'll happen when we have interruptions in the system, go down, and I'm not trying to avoid the statement, but for all intents and purposes, when the system goes down, what we do as a backup to the backup is we'll dispatch, dispatchers, we'll place them in our customer's location. So we'll place one in Leonia, one in Closter, or Interborough, Demers, but that's literally a backup to the backup in case our backup fails. So when there are issues, because when you're dealing with a major storm, a lot of the system comes over fiber. Fiber's interrupted, believe it or not. Cable systems are interrupted, and microwave is interrupted, which is some of our backup. So, yes, that always happens. A tree comes down, a line is broken, but there's always a backup to the failure.
And just talk about the system becoming obsolete. Is there any, 9 or 10 years, do we look at any kind of...
Our system?
Yes.
And when you talk about the system, there's a lot involved. There's 911, we're actually going to next generation, so we're already ready for 4, 5, 6 years out. We're now the next generation. They no longer, kids today, they don't talk. They do text, they do pictures. We're already set up for that. The radio infrastructure is already designed for TDMA, which means that actually in the future, everybody that's narrowband, what did it cost us? We're set for the next FCC mandate of going to that next narrowband. We're already ready there with just a flash software upgrade.
Is there something that you have to be with New York City? Is there some kind of communication that you have to be in tune with them, with the New York City?
We're in tune with New York City, and you may be talking about frequencies.
Yes.
The prosecutor's frequency.
Oh, that's, yeah.
In Amsterdam. The prosecutor needs enhanced frequency capability, and he actually just bought 2 additional frequencies to be able to, when we spend as a county a lot of time just across the bridge on drug issues and things through the prosecutor's office, he needs to be able to talk not only to his people but also to New York City police people, and that's exactly what he's gone ahead and purchased and is being woven into the system. You may have heard that on a freeholder resolution that he's bought additional frequencies for that. That's exactly what that's about.
And how is this better than Central Dispatch?
I'm not going to talk bad about Central. They do a good job. I'll tell you, I know we have a better job. They got good people there. They provide a good service. But I know for a fact where we're going is beyond that.
And Mr. Kerensky, I would like to say, watch your video, Call Me Maybe. Pretty good. YouTube sensation.
I can't get away from that.
Is the present rate structure, is it based upon number of calls, is it based upon population?
The current rate structure that you see in the guidelines that I passed out is based on both population, calls for service. The communities that use civilian dispatchers that have come over to us, their population was costing them about $45 per capita to dispatch. We actually can do it for about $18 per dispatch, and that's what that's just a ballpark with 16, 18, 20 per capita for your population.
I had one more question. Oh, sorry, for Alan. Our staffing right now is from 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, and I know that we've had a few people retire or no longer doing the dispatch. How are we handling that now?
I defer to the police chief to answer those questions, ma'am.
Chief, would you be able to answer that? The current dispatching shifts that we have? Because I saw that we had a few people, we put the job out there, and I don't know if anyone was hired. I didn't see anything that come in.
No, we're in process on that. I held it up based on realizing that the likelihood of having a hire move through prior to at least this presentation was relatively nil. So that's been held in advance. We have a number of applications. We're down one part-time dispatcher and one substitute dispatcher who works on a fill-in basis.
So currently, how are we handling the dispatch shifts, the 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7?
On shifts where a dispatcher is needed, some of the existing dispatchers are picking up additional shifts. In other cases, when there are 4 officers working and no dispatcher, and there isn't a need based on current manpower requirements to replace it, we're going without.
Thank you.
Ed?
You may have answered this question, I might have missed it. It's a technical question about how the dispatch information is relayed back to the town. Now, would our officers have real-time access to all the dispatch information? Do we get daily summaries? How does that information come back from your center to our...
I'm not familiar. Chief, do you use Cody?
Yes, we do.
All right, so that's the easiest one. We use Cody as our main system. We have customers who don't use Cody, so they use Enforces and some others, Spillman. Cody, the way we're operating with Cody is there's basically 2 servers. So we open a call in Cody in the dispatch center, and then you maintain your server in your municipality. The call's opened in our server so we can enter the information, but the officers can see it live in their municipalities. Then the reason we have 2 separate servers is when we close out the call in dispatch, we don't have your information. So we have no access to the Leonia police information. We have no access to Lodi police information and so forth. So it's real time. The only issue we have with Cody, to be quite frank, is the officer in, let's say in River Edge, can't start entering information into his call until we close it out in dispatch. That's our only glitch, but that's a system glitch, and we're looking at other systems in the future. But we prefer to do that. So a lot of the complaints we hear about the dispatch center is it was built so that you will come without any input from who we think should be our customers. I can't answer that. Wasn't there when it was built, but what I can tell you, that's what we're working on now, that whoever our customers are now and will be in the future, that they help us either pick or design the next CAD system.
And how many employees do you have right now total for dispatch, and what's your personnel and operating budget?
38 full-time PSTs, 10 per diems. That does not include administrative. I was about 4.
And do you know what the overall budget is right now for operations and personnel? And
I believe we're about $2.5 million for this past year. We're still in the budget process now for that coming year.
The reason it's difficult to answer, and I can't answer it directly, is it's quite convoluted. Again, I don't know how it got to this, but the dispatch center actually falls under OEM and OEM's budget. So we have this mix of OEM employees, which are our dispatchers, and we have some from the county police staff that are working in the dispatch center. So I can't explain to you how it got to this way, but I think it's fair to say that just the dispatcher center itself, salary, wages, and operation, $2.5 to $3 million.
So you said there's 38 full-time now. When you do this build-out, per se, to take everybody countywide, what would your staffing needs be at that point?
That question is very hard to determine until we figure out the workload, how we geographically break the municipalities up. So to sit there, that's going to be dependent on how we do business.
We have 2 towns that are separated. We have 2 dispatch pods right now. There are 2 towns between them that we're dealing with. If we work with those 4 towns and get them all on together, we believe we can operate based on their call volume with 1 dispatcher. Now, we're not going to get rid of the other 2 dispatchers. We're going to use them for other municipalities that come on. So as municipalities come on and geographically can work together, and just because the town's close to each other doesn't mean it'll work. Mark has been dealing with Wallington. They're right next to Lodi. Lodi's call volume is, it needs at least 1 dispatcher. It's substantial. So I don't know that Wallington will fit in just because it's geographically close. That's why it's not a black and white answer.
Just one other quick question. It goes back to the fees right now. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 towns you list in your information here: Lodi, Richfield, Leone, Demorest. Could we get the financials of how these fees are calculated for these towns?
The numbers?
Yes.
The numbers that you see there were provided by those towns.
No, the amount they're paying you, that's got to be based on whatever the parameters are, call volume, however, if we can get a breakdown how that works out. I'm assuming when you get to the savings part, that's calculated by the municipalities or by you folks?
By municipalities.
Okay.
They tell us how much they save. That's where we come into, I'm going to call it a sticky point, but Demorest says to us, if we broke it down just by population, how many people live in Demorest, how many people live in Lodi, and one person per person, it's not fair because we don't dispatch the same way we do in Demorest as they do in Lodi. We're not, 3 cars go to a mugging or a rape in Lodi as opposed to they've never seen a mugging in Demorest. So it wasn't fair that we share the same cost based purely on demographic or purely on population.
Thank you.
Alphonse.
Thank you. Of that $2.5 million operating cost for 2012, how much did the county pick up and how much was for the rest of the other municipalities?
The other municipalities was about $1 million in round numbers, but that was for the municipalities with full dispatch. And the counties...
How much did the county pick up?
About $1.5 million. $2 million.
Chief, what town do you reside in?
I'm sorry?
What town do you reside in?
Mahwah now.
Okay.
Where were you from originally?
Riverbridge. I lived in Riverbridge for a quick while.
Does Mahwah share in the system?
It does not.
Does Wallington share in the system?
They'll be coming out very shortly, sir.
Okay. And Ed, how about Fairlawn?
Tomorrow night, we're talking about Fairlawn. Not yet, but we're talking about
That's
it.
interesting. Nobody's asked those questions. That's a good one. That's a good point to make.
You 3 are the
Yeah.
emissaries from the county. I'd be interested if the towns where you reside support this project.
And Mahwah is starting to talk to us right now in the earliest stages of conversations.
Kathleen.
Just had 2 more questions. You said there was like 60 mistakes or
I just picked the
problems
number,
or...
yeah, whatever they may be.
I mean, has there been any fatalities from those
No.
errors?
A lot of the complaints are, we didn't take the call quickly enough, we didn't think it was important enough.
When I say complaints, there's 2 sides to every story, and that's that QA process why it's so important. If I get a call from the police chief saying one of the residents complained about this, we pull the tape, we listen to them, we actually provide the answer, this is what really happened. We're not perfect, but I tell you what, we're providing a great service up there.
It's a lot more of, they were rude, they were short, because when your residents, you have that person who calls every Friday night, they get the dispatcher says, hey, how's your cat doing, Mary? That you don't have because the dispatcher may not know Mary, but it's a very professional answer. But we're getting she was very short with me, that dispatcher. She didn't,
What about like other languages? Do you have any bilingual with the demographics?
We have a system actually for that, Mark, I'll tell you.
We actually use the language line. We actually have Spanish PSCs working, and then the language line lets us dial in if somebody calls. Once we determine the language, we can translate on the line.
How long does that take, that process? Is it
Within
seconds?
30 to 45 seconds. It's a one-touch button, they pick up, tell them the language, and they're on.
You know, there's the human factor, too. It's the dispatcher who recognizes that there's a language barrier. What language is it? You may pick it up much more quickly than a dispatcher, their level of experience. So if it's a dispatcher who's experienced, who picks up right away that it's a language that they need, because the person sometimes doesn't always tell you that I speak whatever the language may be. But if all goes well, under a minute, seconds.
Now, just looking at this thing, this trunk radio, these radio sites, is this enough coverage for where these sites are to cover all the areas that need to be covered?
Yes.
Do you plan on putting more sites in?
Yes.
And will that add cost to
Yes.
our services?
Well, not to you, because eventually it'll go to free.
If you're going to no-cost services, it will add cost. Your taxpayers will be paying it through their county taxes. And whether you're on a no-cost basis or not, your taxpayers will be paying it.
How many more sites do you think you might need in order to get good coverage?
Some volume.
What's that?
Go ahead.
When you have 8 right there.
There's a few towns we talked to in the Northern Valley. It's not an issue for us, they're not using this, but when we go up there, we know that they have some of those dead areas, so we're going to have to put a site if we ever contract with them. If we never contract with them, we probably won't need a site up there.
How much does it cost to put one of these sites up there, approximately?
There's a current site that I'm looking at, I have a grant now, roughly about $800,000 up in the Park Ridge area to cover the valley. The money's already sitting in an account, and we're going to build out that site for the valley.
Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen, for a very informative
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, I'll distribute this to
Mr.
I had some unfinished and some new business.
Okay. All right, unfinished business?
Yes, no. I don't know if anybody else, no. I'll wait till, yeah, taking a picture.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Alphonse, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, in terms of unfinished business, I wanted to look again at the bylaws for the mayor and council and bring that back up.
Right
See
now,
if we can't put that to bed.
right now, both sets are sitting at Mr. Sarlo's office.
Need the direction on how you guys want me to look at both, make recommendations, need some direction.
I think the sticking point between the two, obviously I have my favorite of the two, the one I wrote. But I think the major sticking point was who gets to appoint liaisonships, whether it's the executive or it's the council gets to appoint for ourselves the liaisonships. So that's the biggest hurdle, I think, between the two.
I think everything else is just semantics on, whose language to use, but
That's
Alphonse is right,
that's the big
that's the substantive
sticking point. So
sticking point in the
Mr. Sarlo, do you know whose is whose? Is it what?
I do not know.
Oh, so that's even
I
better.
Blind taste test. I'll be happy to look at them and hopefully next meeting give you my recommendations, findings, and the ultimate decision is going to be up to you guys, but I'll be happy to share some insight on it.
Okay.
No problem.
That's all I had for unfinished business.
new business.
I do
I have an
understand they're very old, the
unfinished business
bylaws.
Okay.
question.
Yes. River Edge is not named actually in the bylaws. It's
Baron von Steuben was...
yeah, Von
I
Steuben was
just
walking
wanted to ask about the
streets.
sidewalks, what's going on with those? I keep driving by one that's on Kinderkmack with the cones up, and I'm wondering how we're managing with this.
Yeah, I'll have to speak with John Lynch, and we'll get together. I know that some of the FEMA things have been put aside to deal with the budget at this point, so we'll certainly have to come back to the sidewalks and some of the other repairs that are necessary.
I mean, we've already allocated the money.
$7,000.
At $7,000. So I thought we were going to use the quote that we received from Milford.
Yeah, I have to check to see whether purchase order's been issued to the contractor and, follow up with the any pre-construction instructions or anything like that.
All right. Denise, could you put this issue on our agenda for the next meeting? Any other unfinished business? New business?
Yeah, Mayor. We have the appraisal, and we had a prior opinion from Sam Soresti, and I think we all agree we don't want the property to remain idle. I want to start the process of examining the sale of the Grove Street property. So I think we need to start moving on that.
So, you're
To
talking
list
about
it for
listing it, right?
Yes, listing it for sale, whatever the process is, I don't know. Setting, setting a low for that, and going out for sale of that property.
Alan?
Probably best that the borough attorney review the, the local lands and building law and report back to you as to whether you have to offer it first to adjoining owners or whatever.
Yeah, I imagine he would have to review the correct procedure for listing it, so.
Have it at the next meeting.
And the other issue I think I would like this council start to address for the remainder of the year is a master plan reevaluation. You look like you want to say something.
Well, no, well, that's not this council's purview, it's the purview of the planning board under the land use law to amend and to revise the master plan. So we can certainly bring that recommendation forward to the planning board and see if that's something they wanted to entertain. Because by law, you have to do it every 6 years. The last one was done in 2009, the last master plan reassessment, so.
Well, I would ask them then to take a look at it, because I think it's worth doing.
Isn't it very expensive?
It can be, depending on what you want. The one issue that's come up is that, and Alan was still doing some research for me, but apparently, although our master plan says it was amended to include a historic element and a housing element, it really never was. Basically, the previous councils have adopted ordinances, and in the language of the ordinance says we now amend the master plan, which technically isn't the way you would do this. There would have to be a section rewritten to address those specific items. So the planning board and the third one was environmental resources inventory, so the planning board's been talking about that also. So we're looking at separate elements that may or may not have been done in the past, and the idea of a complete update has been broached, but the board hasn't made any recommendations on that. We did get a new planner.
It says good till 2015, the current one.
And what you've had, just re-examination?
The last re-examination was 2009, I believe.
So since 1984, you've just done re-examination?
Correct.
Not a new master plan?
No new master plan. So we could certainly bring it up.
All right,
But
so...
that can cost $25,000-$30,000.
No, I understand, but I think there's certain areas and elements of the town that we need to look at, and
No, I think it's a good idea to review the master plan and to update it. I just don't think we allocated any money in the budget.
None whatsoever.
And we're getting close to we're getting close to introducing our budget, so if there is a consensus on the borough, on the part of the governing body to do a study of amending the master plan, we have to put aside the funding for it.
I think my position would be that we should be reevaluating our redevelopment plans before we get into the master plan. We still have 3 redevelopment plans out there, which we don't know if they're good, bad, indifferent. We know they're not bringing the development we thought they were going to. If we're going to spend the money, I think we should be re-examining those first before we do an overall update on the master plan.
But the redevelopment plans that we have concern the south end of town,
Yes.
right? We don't have an examination of the existing zoning along Kindercamack Road, which
That's a separate,
which
yes.
I think is a...
We've been mentioning that's a separate issue, and I would support looking at the zoning on that. But I don't know whether we want to start the master plan from scratch again. I said I'd rather focus on the redevelopment plans we have, and if you wanted to look at some of the zoning like we talked about on Kindercamack, that would certainly be something that would be included.
yeah, I mean, that's really what I want to get to, is looking at the zoning along Kindercamack.
I think that ties into...
I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, and I think that ties into what we're going to bring Mr. Smart in also. He's going to give us some economic business development ideas, and they will all have to be tied together, I think.
Well, like I said, I want that to be, I really think that needs to be the focus in terms of the redevelopment plans for the south end of town. as they currently exist, I just don't see them, I kind of think they're dead in the water.
But they're the law of the borough, and
Yeah.
they're adopted ordinances, and if those need to be revised, so we can actually have more flexibility and more potential down there, then we should be looking to do that.
No, I mean, I think they need to totally be reworked. And the zoning, though, on Kinderkamak. So if, you know, if there's other means to do that, I think we should. But basically what I'm bringing up is I think that should be our focus for the rest of the year, is looking at redevelopment along Kinderkamak and how we best achieve that. So if it's not a master plan, reval or looking at it again, but just simply, zoning changes along the corridor, then that's fine. But, I just kind of want to start that process of thinking about it in some detail and not actually working on it, because we talk a lot, but until you actually put something down on paper, it doesn't get done.
Yep.
But I will withdraw master plan reval as any type of motion. So.
All right, any other new business?
The only other thing, and maybe I was not at the Safety and Traffic Committee meeting, the last one I was at, and I don't know when there's going to be another one. But while I was driving down Oradell Avenue the other day, they have a lot of signs every, couple hundred feet or so, with a bicycle and a car, saying share the road. We don't have signs like that. We have like one sign, I think, on Bogert, in terms of bicycle traffic, but in terms of our Complete Streets program, I think signage like that along perhaps Bogert and Fifth might be appropriate, encouraging bicycle traffic. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't recommend it to many people to ride their bicycle up and down Kinderkamak, but those two roads do run parallel and achieve the same, goal. So perhaps some signage, and while we're still in the budget phase, perhaps if we need to appropriate some money in capital for
If I can make a
signs.
suggestion to you, signs are expensive. There are certain towns that actually manufacture, they have a machine shop, and they make their own signs. Secaucus is one of them. And you can look into a shared service with one of those towns, and the cost of making the sign is 20% of what you would purchase it, because all you're doing is buying the material. They already have the stop sign, the decal to pretty much put on it. So it's a good shared service to look at, and it's a small thing, but when you start realizing how many signs the borough needs and replacement and updating, it can get
You mean
costly.
share service with another town and then give it to Secaucus?
Shared service with any town that potentially
Just little
makes
ferry
their
looking?
own sounds. We actually use Secaucus.
Are you looking to do a shared service?
We use Secaucus. Secaucus has their own machine shop,
Uh-huh.
and we go there, and we give them a list, and they make their own, sign. So I know some bigger towns have their own machine shop. Paramus actually may have their own too, and they're looking for towns to come in and cost.
I would just like to offer caution here. I'm curious how we had a lot of bicycle accidents on those two roads, because I definitely believe in safety. I definitely believe in appropriate signage, but signage is also a bit of a visual pollution issue. It kind of takes away from the suburban character, too many signs. I'd like to hear from the chief, it doesn't have to be tonight, about whether there have been issues, because we already have like a gazillion signs. Kinderkamak needs those signs, but I don't know if our more interior streets need the signs. And if they do, then I would certainly support that. But I wouldn't want us to begin to, take away the suburban look and with more and more signage. So I just have a concern about that maybe we can talk about at a future time. I'm sorry, just a call, but I apologize.
I'll call on Anthony in a second. Just one comment to what Councilman Papaleo said, is that we've had discussions in the past about Fifth Avenue in particular, about making having a bike lane there. So it would be and it's a wide street, so it would be particularly appropriate to have that kind of sign that Alphonse suggested on a road like Fifth Avenue.
That's if we actually do create the bike lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony, did you have a comment?
Yeah, no, just to Councilman Papaleo's point, as someone who actually cycles on Kindercamac minimum 4 times a week, even in the winter, just did it today, yeah, too many signs, I agree. I don't feel any safer because they're telling me to, watch out for me. But anyways, that's my 2 cents about that. But maybe on the other streets, yeah, it could be some of use.
Well, like I said, I wasn't talking about Kindercamac.
Oh, no, I didn't know if it was going to pertain to
I wasn't
that.
talking about Kindercamac either. I think Kindercamac is a high usage. I was really talking about Fifth and Bogart, not adding signs that we don't necessarily need, because it affects the streetscape. But I'm not opposed to it. I would like to keep our signage to a minimum within the more residential part of the town. Kindercamac is a county. It's a thoroughfare. It's our commercial region, so signage there is appropriate. But if we don't need to go for unnecessary or signage, and so that's why maybe the chief at a future date can see whether we really need signage for bicyclists. So that was my thought.
All right, well, I'm going to schedule another traffic and safety meeting. We'll put that on the agenda so that we can get moving on a safe streets plan. And I have a couple of things on that particular topic that I want to discuss too, particularly with the bus stops and the bus shelters and where they are and where they're located. I know that one spot in particular on Kindercamac Road has it's actually across from Wayne Avenue. There's a bus stop there, and people get off the bus, and there's no sidewalk. They get off the bus on the grass, and there's no crosswalk. And they cross Kindercamac at Wayne to get to a sidewalk. And we either got to put in a crosswalk and a sidewalk, or move the bus stop, whichever is easier and less expensive. But right now it's a little dangerous to be pulling a bus over, letting people out, abandoning them on somebody's grass on the curb with nowhere to walk, because if you walk straight ahead you hit bushes that are encroaching on the roadway. And there's no crosswalk to bring them safely to the western side of Kindercamac where the sidewalk is. So we have to get our traffic officer to look at that location. Just little things you notice when you go around town. Any other new business? No? Can I have a motion to open a hearing to the public?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, anything? Okay, the hearing is now open to the public. If you'd like to have a question, make a statement, be heard, just raise your hand, stand up, give us your name and address. Mr. Chilia.
Thank you. Paolo Chilia, 685 Fifth Avenue. I actually have a couple of questions, but just a comment. I live on Fifth Avenue. If you want to make a bike lane, you need to pave it. It's full of potholes. It's all breaking up. So a bike riding on that street, on Fifth Avenue, would have a problem, because at night especially, or when it's dark, you wouldn't see how badly the road is, and you would fall. You probably may have noticed that. One other comment, I think is a very good comment just made about the bus stop. What I've noticed on Kindercamac Road is the bus stops, especially in the evening, let people out where there's no street lights.
Yeah, I know.
And you can't see people crossing. There's no guides, there's no walks. And I've seen a few times myself, almost hit people. They're dressed like me in dark, and you can't see them. And they think you can see them, but you can't until it's too late. And I think you should address that rather quickly, because someone's going to get killed soon because of that. So I really have two questions. One is, I've been following a lot of the comments on the patch about things that are going on, the assessment, the duplex zoning. I have a suggestion. One is, I would like to have, or maybe find out how it can be done, to put up a referendum for the town to decide whether we should allow duplex in this town. We're going to allow it in one area of the town, we should allow it to everyone. Okay? So I think it should be up to the public to decide as residents, is that what we want for River Edge?
Why do you think, I'm asking, I'm not putting you on why do you think we should allow it for everyone?
Why not? Why is it just that some parts of town get it and some don't? I mean, a duplex, for example, it might allow homeowners to sell their homes very cheaply, have someone come in, put in a duplex, and because we want higher density and a bigger tax base, it will help the town recover more tax money, right? So we increase the density of homes within the 75-foot by 130-foot or 100-foot home. We double the density. That's the purpose of the duplex. You double the density, you increase the tax base. Isn't that what we want for the town?
Well,
isn't that what we want to change?
There are people on your side, and you're the first person who has come forth and promoted expanding what's going to be before the planning board. This duplex zone in one little area of Park
But this
Avenue.
seems to be the solution to raise taxes.
Everybody that we've heard from is vehemently opposed to it.
I'm promoting a referendum to have the town decide if this is the town we want to live in, where we have duplexes, where we have that approach to our community. If this is what we want as a town, then let's vote for it and we'll decide on it. I think it's only fair. Why allow only the council to decide or the planning board? We live in town. We live with the consequences of what's decided here in this town, in this forum. So let us decide as residents.
Alan?
Just clarification, that would be a non-binding referendum. That would be advisory only to the mayor and council.
Has there ever been a referendum on a zoning matter that you're aware of?
No, not that I'm aware of.
And fundamentally, it's going to change the character of River Edge. It's going to change the town. So is that what we want as residents? We make an investment here. Everyone owns a home here. So you made an investment. You decided this is where you want to live and how you want to live. You have your family here. So let's decide which way we want to go. Well, anyway, that was number one. Number two, I'm not sure we're doing enough to attract business into town. I don't know what the status is of the Hoffman Coos property. Still an empty lot. I know last year when I brought it up, the information I received was that it looks like it's very close. All they need is some kind of approval, EPA, and still we're nowhere with no development. So as an approach,
I can give you an update on the Huffman Coos because what's today? Today is Monday.
25th.
Last week, I don't know what day last week, but last week, this company March Construction, who is the contractor for the Huffman Coos owners, delivered plans for the new shopping center to the building department. So that's a big step in my mind, that they've delivered plans for the new construction to the building department. The plans are being reviewed by the construction official to see if they comport with the planning board's approval. It should take only a few days. The plans still need final county approval, which they don't have yet, but they said that should take about a week. So after those steps are done, I am assuming that they're going to get their building permits and begin work. That's my hope. But right now, the plans, which were, just a figment of somebody's imagination, actually exist and they're on file.
So I have a suggestion for the town. Humbly, I think we should consider a ordinance that if the land is very developed and someone decides to take it down, take down the building, they should be required to build within a period of time. There's no reason why the town has to suffer tax loss, tax revenue loss. Perhaps the thing to do is that if you build within a certain number of years, you can get a rebate. You keep on paying the same amount of taxes. Maybe you get a rebate because you built within 5 years or 2 years, whatever it might be, on your taxes. But I think we're not encouraging the development of the town, we're not encouraging business. This delay in the shopping center that has forced other business to look elsewhere. So while on one hand, we want to address our tax revenue issues and the lack of sufficient funds and everything else, we're not really doing enough to attract business. I just don't see it. And you're not even sure. They show you plans, they show you this, they show you that.
Well, I'm sure that the plans are on file. The plans that we've been waiting for 4 years they've materialized. They're in the building department. They're being reviewed in anticipation of building permits being issued. So the planning board approval says that and also I can disclose to the public that that there is a draft of it. The way it works is that the planning board approves it, the plans get submitted, the town enters into an agreement, called a developer's agreement, with the contractor that makes them post a bond, a performance bond, a construction bond. There's a draft developer's agreement that our planning board attorney is putting the final touches on, that once it gets approved by the developer's attorney and signed by the developer, then there'll be a resolution on the agenda, hopefully in the next, I'm not going to put a time limit on it. I'm just going to tell you that there's a draft developer's agreement. I'm hoping there'll be a resolution on the agenda shortly for the council to authorize me to sign it. And that'll be one project that is getting underway. That we can.
Is there a problem why they can't give you a date? Don't they have a project plan?
They have a plan.
A timeline?
They have a plan. They need final county approval. They need final.
So just waiting for the county.
I'm waiting for the county. We're waiting for the county. We've done everything that we have. This council, our planning board, everybody has done everything in its power to encourage the development of that project. Nobody is, our engineer, nobody has, sought to delay anything.
And then just in light of the recent discussion about the rezoning and planning, is there any idea, any plans about building a downtown or something like that, like an Ardell, where it actually makes it more conducive for people to come and shop without a car or just walk down to the town or cafes? I mean, we need something that binds more the communities together.
Tonight, you heard discussion about property that the borough owns on Grove Street. That we have an appraisal report because it's borough-owned property, and we want to market that for someone to develop it. There are also, my personal opinion is that we should take that property and make it into shopper parking to make that area of Kinderkamek Road, where some restaurants are and some businesses, to give the shoppers some parking there so that they can patronize those businesses, because there's only street parking on Kinderkamek Road where it's very narrow. So, we don't, the council doesn't disagree on a lot, but some things they disagree on. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you. Good, very good ideas. Very good comments. Anybody else would like to be heard? Can I have a motion to close the hearing to the public?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, we just have the closed session agenda that we have to do, right? So we can have a motion to adjourn the work session?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.